Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz game number 230. I was black here, my opponent played d4 and I played d5. He plays c4 and I play c6, the Slav defense. Now, if you look at the opening book moves for white, you will see the most popular move is knight f3. And the reason why knight f3 is more popular than knight c3, which is still very common, is that knight c3 allows the Winawer gambit, whereas knight f3 doesn't. So if you want to avoid the Winawer gambit, just play knight f3 there. That's kind of the normal, most common move there. It's not that this gambit is just losing or anything, but you see, it's a good gambit. The engine doesn't even recommend taking the pawn. It recommends playing e3, and you get into a different kind of structure entirely. But you can take it, and it's about the same whether you take it or not. But if you're not expecting what happens, this can come as quite a surprise. So you push the pawn forward, the knight goes here, and then you deliver this queen check, queen a5 check. So it's a fork between the king and the pawn that you just gave away. You're going to pick it back up. And now I misplayed it. The normal response here is bishop d2. That's what I see in most cases. And after bishop d2, you can just take the pawn. After knight d2, instead of taking the pawn right away, you need to play knight d7 to round up the pawn. I forgot that, but that's something I should know. So the way it would go here is knight d7. And if he tries to hold on to the pawn with knight gf3, you can just take it. And you get your pawn back. So that's the way to play it. Instead, I was just playing queen takes e5. I'd forgotten. I'd forgotten there was sort of two lines there within the gambit. And so now white can get his pawn back. Although you see, even here, it's not so great. Knight here. So the queen should go to a5. Queen to a5. Knight takes d4. And knight to f6. And just continue developing this way with gambit play. Yeah. So what I did was a mistake. I went queen to d6. Which is the way you play it in the other line. And now he can throw a knight e4 here and really chase my queen away and win that pawn. So that's what happens. Let's just, we're out of the opening book, so let's just look at the game. He plays knight to e4, hitting my queen again. And now I was thinking about queen b4 check. I just didn't know what it would do. But actually queen b4 check, he blocks, and I can round up the c pawn at least. So I can get my pawn back that way. So that's probably the best way to play it. I played queen g6, hitting his knight, and forgetting that his queen could just take the pawn. So now I'm down a pawn. Is that right? Yeah, I'm just down a pawn at this point. So that's right. I sacked a pawn. I gave it. I won it back, and then I lost this pawn. So I'm down a pawn. And this move was just a mistake, c5. I just was forgetting his knight could take it. I was thinking, well, his queen can't take it because I'll take the knight. But his knight can take it, and now he's 2 pawns up. Although, if you look at the evaluation here, it only gives a 1-pawn advantage. So at least I'll get 1 pawn back, or I have compensation for 1 pawn here. But surprisingly, you know, this is one of those wide open positions, which is what you get with a lot of gambit play. And there's many ways for your opponent to go wrong, so just watch how things develop. I mean, I do a very normal developing move, knight c6, cancel that, knight c6, hitting his queen. Still trying to chase the queen away from this this knight. The queen goes to e3, holding on to the knight, and putting my king in check. So I block with the bishop, and I can't take the knight anyway because the bishop is pinned. He plays h4. And suddenly the advantage is dropped to only half a pawn advantage. So somehow I've gotten some mysterious kind of compensation. Instead of h4, he should have played knight d3. Okay, gotten his knight out of trouble by retreating it. Okay, but that knight is not really the source of his problem. So I go knight f6. It stops the pawn from advancing and driving my queen off this diagonal, and you know, develops a piece in a natural kind of way. And then he plays knight to g5 here, and he's just losing here. So and I find the tactic, which is kind of nice. Sometimes the tactic's there and you don't see them, but this is the kind of danger that can exist in these wide open positions. So the queen has got this lovely diagonal, and I just need to get my knight to b4, which I do. And I've got this terrible threat of knight to c7 check, which just can't be dealt with in any way. You see, the evaluation has suddenly changed to -4, which means I'm a whole rook up, basically, between a piece and a rook up. So just that one move, just one incautious move there, gives away his entire advantage and gives the game away too. So what did he need to play here? He could play knight e5, moving the knight towards the center and guarding. Knight e5. I'm sorry, knight e5 here. Oh, hitting my queen. Yeah, that makes sense. Knight e5 hitting my queen. That would force me to do something. And if I have to take the queen after I exchange my knight off, then I don't have the knight b4 threat anymore. Another idea is just knight back to d3, blocking this diagonal so that when I threaten knight b4, he can defend the c2 square with his queen. So a couple ways to handle that. Even pushing on with h5, it says, is okay, but knight g5 just gives the game away because it ignores this threat of knight b4. So anyway, this is a tactic that really can't be refuted. You see, yeah, 4.5 points. So he tries queen e5, and I go for the check. He goes king to d1, and now it says knight g4 is the strongest move here. I thought just winning the rook was going to be good enough, and he played bishop to e3 here, just trying to complete his development and defend his knight. And now I can come in with the queen c2, king e1, and I take on c4. So, and I have the threat of the knight coming back to c2 and delivering another check. So I thought I was in pretty good shape. Also, I've got pressure on his knight here. So he played bishop to d4, and I was so excited about the idea of knight c2, I overlooked the fact that there's a simple mate in one here. Queen to c1 is checkmate already. His bishop was doing a key role there, defending. But what I had calculated already was I could come back with the check, the king moves, and I can take the bishop. And the bishop was on here. I was expecting him to take back, and then I would take the knight, so I'd just win more material that way. He can't even take the knight here, so he played e3 to try and chase the knight away. But this allows a mate in 2, which this time I spotted the mate in 2. Queen c2 check, king here, and queen c1 is checkmate. So that's how the game ended, and good example of the dangers that lie in gambit play, even when the gambit is unsound. You really have to be on your toes and look for all of the tactics that your opponent has working for him at his disposal, and make sure you've positioned your forces to deal with all the threats. Okay, well, that's it for this one. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.